Okay, let's do some body topology. So, body topology is easier than doing the head. Because there's a much broader surface. There's not as many details, but the same kind of thinking and same kind of care still needs to be taking place. So there's still going to be main loops that we're going to put in first, and then we're basically going to join those up. I'm still going to stick with my halfway approach. So all my arms, my legs, my wrists, my elbows, all that kind of stuff is going to be roughly the same area. The hand, same number. The hand is going to be a bit of a tricky place, just because again you've got X amount of edges coming in from your arm, and the hand is quite a complex object. There's going to be a lot of face around here, so there will be a little bit of redirecting around there. But we'll do the body, the arms, and legs first. Then we'll do the hands last. But like I said, it's the same as always. So I've got my body in here. I've got my head in here. Obviously, having a nice optimized head with an amount of edge flow controllable coming out the bottom is good. You don't want to have too much coming into the body. So a density like this is going to be good. And I'm just going to set up my loops at first. And I'm also just going to change the material on this because it's a bit bright. So I'm going to change that to something a bit more manageable. There we go. And then, there we go. And then back to, there we go, right. So I'm going to start up my loops first. Now my first loop, I'm actually going to send all the way around the body, underneath, and to the back of the head. Easy. So I'm going to start dragging that out. I've not really got an amount of edges I'm going to have going down the body yet. I'm going to have some, but I'm not really trying to go for that halfway thing on this, in this case. I just want a loop going all the way around the body, but I do want to have under the groin here like a halfway point. So we'll set up a halfway point in there. So I'm going to go in. Another reason why having our models bigger is good is places like this where it gets very tight, and we don't want the auto welding to really kind of like take control here. So let me just set up that spot and then round the back. I'm also going to keep my topology simple. I'm not going to go for any kind of really kind of crazy edge flows or anything like that. I'm not going to try and trace muscle groups or make it very intense. Because there's no need. For this level, there's no need. I want to keep it easy first. There we go. And then I'm just going to add a few just to... There we go. So I think I've got the same at the front, same at the back. So there we go. He's got a little like tankini thing going on. Awesome. Let's start getting the other stuff in there. So I'm going to start with my elbow. So front of my elbow, back of the elbow, top, bottom, front, and then I'm just going to start to fill those in. So it's going to start off very low poly, obviously, but then I'm going to kind of up-res it once I've got the loop in there. So the loop is almost, come on. I'm just going to have to manually put this one in. So the process, like I said, is exactly the same. I'm creating loops first. Like that. And I'm just going to do the exact same thing. So go around, do the exact same thing. Also making sure that it's all, that you got symmetry turned on. Because the last thing you want to do is do one half and then realize you forgot to do the other half. There's a way of getting around that. You're not always not lost if that happens. If you forget to put symmetry on, all you got to do is duplicate and flip. It's just a bit of a pain, that's all. And also, like I said, I'm making the wrist and arm loops kind of purposely low res at first. So I'm not trying to guess. I'll have 16 in there, therefore I'll put 16 in, whatever. I'm kind of keep it nice and chill for now, nice and easy. But still have my halfway points. So the top of my wrist there, that's my halfway point, and that should line up to the halfway point there. So I might as well just start to fill this in. Very, very easy. And the body should take you far less time than doing the head, obviously. But you've just got to not look at it as a different kind of object. It's still the exact same thing as the head. All the same rules, so I have my halfway points. Try and keep it relatively low res for the beginning. So that if I need to add stuff later on, it's easier. So halfway, halfway, halfway. Let me just... like that. Boom, like that. Boom. There you go. Easy. Let's do the same for the leg. So I'm going to go top of the leg first. Point in the middle. Point in the middle. I'm actually going to make it a little bit curved as well. Or I might just make it flat and then make it a bit more of an angle later on. Oh, my hand looks really weird then. So back, front, middle, 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 and then go around. Obviously, you can see that it's all the same thing. But like I said, there are some weird loops in the body. Around the pelvis, there's a bit of a weird point. In the hand, obviously, there's a lot of faces. We're going to do something interesting with the deltoid in the chest. So there we go. And again, make sure my halfway point is there. So that's the halfway point. That's my halfway point. So I'm going to pause the video and go and do the rest of this and show you the results. So then I'm not going through the video, you know, taking ages. So something has happened, which I think is a good learning experience. The topology hasn't carried over symmetrically. But again, don't worry about it. I've got a nice leg here, and I've got obviously a messed up leg here. So I'm just going to turn off topology, turn off symmetry. I'm just going to get rid of all the offending areas. So where is it not? So I think I take everything below the knee away. Yeah. All that away. There you go. Everything looks okay. Cool. So I'm just going to come out of modeling mode there, or quadron mode. I'm going to hide the decimated version. I'm going to grab my legs, and we're also going to put a different material on that because it's annoying. There you go. And I'm going to just select the lower half, the one that's not bad. I'm going to edit mesh and detach. It's in front of it, there it is. And then I can split these now. So if I go to polymodeling, I can go to split. So now we should have a low leg like that. I'm just going to make sure that my pivot point is in the middle of the world. So holding D and X, drag to the middle of the world there. I'm also going to, there you go. So I was just holding J when I did that and scaling in on the X axis so it flips across. And then I can just grab everything, combine into one group again so that it, you know, quad draws together. Bring back. So I'm pressing H to hide and then Shift H when I've got it selected in the outliner there. Shift H to expose again. Right. And then we can go back into quad draw. There we go. So nice and good. So yeah, don't worry if anything like that happens. Just find the side that's working, duplicate it over. With something like legs and stuff, you could just, like legs and arms, you can just flip them over later on. So, you know, if one is absolutely, you know, broken, just delete that side, carry on with the good side, and then flip it when you're done. So things also have happened, just to point out that areas at first might look really low res. So here, for instance, I've not got a load of topology going around my leg, so it does look a little bit low res around there. That's fine, leave it for now, because we don't know how many edges we're going to need in the leg. My most important thing is just making sure that we've got the halfway points in there. Yep. I should actually just make sure I've merged everything as well. I've not merged anything. Where's merge? You're staring at me in the face. Merge. There you go. Because I split stuff up before. There we go. So I can see the lines going all the way down the leg. There you go. So I've got my halfway point. Back of the leg. Back of the ankle. Got my halfway point at the front. Front leg. Front of the foot. And I got my halfway points going down the sides. All good. Turn on symmetry again. There you go. Now this is one drawback with quad draw and retopology in general, is because when you deal with a lower resolution surface and the lower res version, the quad draw version can't go all the way around the leg, it does sometimes when you like say if you smooth it, it kind of doesn't go the way you'd want it to. So with the leg and the arms and stuff, we sometimes have to manhandle vertexes into place just to maintain that flow. Cool. Now, say that we're going to do something interesting with the deltoids and the pecs as well. So you can just make a loop around the top of the arm there and put it into the body. You can absolutely do that. I like doing this because it traces the top of the deltoid, and especially if I've got a character where I want to make a point of that transition from the deltoid into the pec. Just helps me out with that. Gives me a good gives me a good shape. Plus, it also traces the pectorals, and this is good also if if you're doing a character with breasts, you can have that go underneath the breast or across the top of it rather than going across the front, the nipple line. So same thing as I always did. I'm going to do a halfway point, but this time it's going to be the halfway point. It's going to be over there. We've got a middle point there, the front and the back. That's fine. So I'm going to put a point just where the deltoid ends there, and just where the scapular ends there, and then one in the middle of those like that. And I'm going to trace down, put an extra like that. Okay. And then one delta. Okay. Make a little path. And then I'm going to fill that path. Like that. Okay. And again, it's really low res. I've just put it in so now I can actually, again, manhandle that into place. Just realised I had proxy smooth turned on that whole time. Something like that. So I want something that goes into the middle of the chest. I've got this here, which is that essentially the angle, the corner of the pectoral down here. The point where it meets, pectoral meets deltoid. Halfway, halfway, halfway. Where the pectoral meets the scapula. I could just bring one more into that. Now I could also do this at the back to trace some kind of trapezius muscle, but I've not really got one on here, so I'm not going to bother. Okay, and then I'm just going to connect this into the middle for now. There you go. So again, I'm setting up these loops for later on. Okay, so let's start filling in the body. This is really easy. I'm just going to start making big joins. And then put a halfway point in between each one of them. I can't stress again, I know I'm saying it a lot, but this is still low res. I'm going to add more dimension later on. We shouldn't have a really, really low res body. Because it's, nothing will look right. I'm literally just making sure my edge flow is correct. I can add edges in if I need to later on. And again, if I'm adding an edge at the front, I'm adding the same at the back so that everything lines up and nice and equal. There you go. So you can see there, I've got an edge there, I've got an edge there. Everything's all good. I think I'm going to put a couple of divisions going down the length of the body there, so I can. Okay. Fill that in. Fill that in. Again, just getting these big shapes in there first. See what smoothing will give me a little bit. I'm also, so there are some things I'm not going to be doing. I'm not going to be tracing any of the muscles of like the elbow or the arms or anything like that. I'm not going to be tracing those muscles because I don't really need to. Because that's like advanced retopology. We're just going to keep it simple. I'm not going to be doing anything like, I'm not going to be tracing the muscle at the back or anything like that. I'm not going to be going really hardcore with the animation deform points as well. We will be doing them, and when we come up to them, we'll talk about them. but I'm not going to be going hardcore on that, because when we do stuff for animation, like animation, or if we have like a really intricate animated rig for a game, there are certain points on the body that you need to have certain types of topology on so that they deform properly. You don't get what I call Woody Woody from Toy Story, because he's like that puppet. His elbow is like a stitch and it collapses. You can sometimes get that with bad rigs, or bad geometry, I should say. So the halfway point on my leg now. So that's my halfway point on my leg. That's the halfway point on my body. Guess what I'm going to do? There you go. Both sides. I'm also working on one side predominantly, so that, you know, if I do end up getting another one of those asymmetrical errors, I've not got like asymmetry on both sides. I should have a good side and a bad side if it does happen again. There you go. So I'm joining there. I'm also going to join underneath the groin. Or should I? Yes, I will do that now. Let's angle myself. Boom, there we go. Okay, so I'm purposely leaving these little holes as well. So here's a good place. I know that I'm going to end up actually adding some information, because you can see I've got the front of my leg coming up there. Move that a bit. So I've got the front of my leg coming up there, and that's going to be going into a place which has no division. So I know I'm going to put a division in there. So why don't we do that? To follow on that flow. There we go. So now that flow can run into this flow. Same for the back. So now this flow can run into this flow. In fact, I can just fill up this side. There we go. So that's us starting to add a bit more geometry into the body, naturally. Okay. So let's fill up this area here. So what we've got going on, this might be a bit confusing for some people. What we've got going on, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, got 6-sided shape here. And we've got kind of a spiky groin. I do want to add another point in here, another edge, because that's just too much. It's not tracing the shape enough. So I want to make sure I put an edge in there. This area is always a little bit weird, because it's the transition point from the torso into the leg. And if we think about how the leg is formed, so if I can, I'll do a bit of a draw over on here. Get me X. See if grease pen works for me. So our leg doesn't join to our body like that in a straight line, does it? You know, we've got our pelvis inside here, so our leg joins like this, joins at an angle, you know, with that deep V kind of shape. So I want to follow that with my geometry as well, with my retopology. So as our character lifts the leg up, they're not going to crease across there, which is unnatural. They're going to crease like that, which is natural. So that's what I'm trying to do here a little bit. So, okay, so you can see we can do stuff, but we're coming into a triangle. Okay, so how can we solve this issue? Well, I'm going to start adding another piece of geometry into the leg. I'm going to do the same at the front, I'm going to do the same at the back. So I'm going to add an edge here, so that I can have a quad there and a quad there. Like you see how it kind of goes around like that. There you go. So you can see I've got a loop around that. I've also got to do the same at the back. So I put an edge in the front, so I'm going to put an edge in the back. And I'm going to clean up the edge flow later on as well. Okay, so this is now another problem we have to solve. Oh, that's because I didn't put an edge there, did I? There you go. Boom, boom, there you go. So what my issue was there is because I put that point in the front of the groin there, I didn't do it at the back here, so that kind of made me make a triangle. So I'm going to put another one at the back there, and then I can fill in the exact same shapes as we did before. It's got a bit of a low res bum, don't worry about it. A little bit of clustering. I'm not too worried about that, because I'm going to add a couple of edges into here. It's going to add a little bit more geometry into the body. So I added that edge in there, front and back. That's my halfway point. I'm going to add an edge in there. That's the point I've just added in. That's the halfway point. I'm going to add an edge in there. So, and maybe just add a couple of edges just there as well. And then just going to use a bit of smooth just to even it out a little bit. There we go. So you can see now we're getting a bit more resolution in our body. There we go. So this is why it's good to keep things low res and then build up gradually like that. And we've got 20 minutes on the recording. So as you can see, within 20 minutes we can get quite a lot done. Oh, okay, so we've got some asymmetry. Oh, okay, that's from where stuff didn't merge earlier on. So now that should now merge. There we go. Okay. Oh, remember that word flow. We want to make sure everything flows. Okay, there you go. Nice, good. So let's start to fill in the rest. So that's my top of my shoulder there. And I'm going to find a halfway point on my head. So I'm going to call that my halfway point. Now if I need to, I can change that up later on. Yeah, I'm not going to connect them. I'm just going to drag them down. So I know. Okay, so, oops, it is. This edge here is going to go into this edge. Okay. And if I need to make changes later on, I can do. Halfway, halfway, halfway. There we go. And I can just start to form that loop around the neck. You might notice as well that I kind of move around the body. Just like I do with sculpting, I kind of move around the body as I'm doing this, so I don't get just stuck in one place all the time. Because if I get stuck in one place all the time, I'm probably going to make mistakes. I'll create some kind of form of spiraling, and a spiral is literally where a loop, which is meant to go round into itself, you've got it going round into a spiral, which is never great. So let me just rebuild that section because it wants to not do what it's told. There we go. So it's rebuilding the section then because it was acting a bit funny with the smoothing, like it almost wasn't merged. Pectoral, halfway, halfway. Yeah, okay, that's all good. Okay, so I'm going to again do the same thing with the arm. I'm going to bring these up like that. Let's start to connect these. So yeah, we'll just add that couple of edges in there to make nice connection points to my shoulder and my arm. I'm going to split this pectoral in half there, just to give myself again a bit more shape. I'm going to start to bring this up over the top of the chest, make like a plate. So essentially this edge here is going to go all the way across here. But I split it because I wanted a bit more definition. So I'm going to take this edge here. So this is the corner right there. That's the corner. This is going downwards. This is going to be, these two are going to be coming across. So let me just Fill that in. Nice, good. Around the shoulder here might be a bit of an issue, because I'm not going to send this one round like that. There you go, like up and round like that. Possibly. What I'm thinking of doing is taking the pectorals up like this and bringing a loop across. So boom, boom, like that. Now I might have to do some sort of like redirecting in the neck here because I've got a lot of stuff coming down from my head, and I don't want to be adding tons of geometry in there just to kind of satisfy that into my body, just to satisfy that. So I might do a little bit of redirecting around here. Same for the back. But while we've just done the front, then let's do the back. So back's going to be a little bit different, but I will just. There you go. So they're matching that loop, at least on this one, the loop's going all the way around, but on this one, I'm matching that loop going all the way around the front of the chest there. Right, okay, so if I'm continuing to take this up into the clavicle, I'm going to give myself an area to head into, so there. So there's 2 points, so it's this one. Like that. So I'm trying to match up the same stuff I'm doing on one side to the other. So I've got this one edge here, I've got this one edge here. So, yeah, that's nice. So this little nice shape here might look a little bit scary. This like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-sided shape here. So obviously we can't fill a 6-sided shape in because it's not going to work. But if we put a point in the middle, I can have this coming up from the shoulder like that. So I can create a loop, and then I can have same thing happening there. So now I've got this kind of like a loop going around the shoulder there. Okay. So now we've got this loop here, which I'm thinking I could just take this round like that. But then we've got an issue here where we're actually starting to get a very, very wide piece of geometry. But for now I'll leave it. Yeah, we'll need to do that little loop around here. So what I'm going to do is bring 2 edges down, round, up into themselves. Just like we do with the, just like we got like here, where it goes up, round into itself. So let's just, let's take that away for now. Give myself a bit of working room. Some middle point. So that's going to go all the way down. So I'm going to go boop, boop. Like that, there we go. So I've taken 4 edges out of the neck. Okay, let's readdress that back there. So I'm going to create that loop. I don't need to delete the whole thing. Let's just do these 2. Do this across here. So all I'm doing is recreating that loop, but I'm not having it be attached to this edge here. Like that. I think what I'm going to do is take this across. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 at the bottom. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the top. Now we've got an edge coming down from the neck there. I don't want to just send it into the front. We could probably use some more geometry in the arm. So what I'm thinking is put one there, and again I'm going to do the same there. There you go. Boom, closed. Okay, so this bit's all looking okay, but now we've got a bit of a problem. We've got 1 point there, 3 points there. If I just start adding edges in willy-nilly, it's going to start going in directions I don't really want it to go. Now what I could do is basically create the fix, but stop it going anywhere by deleting faces there. So there you go. So that's now fixed. That whole section is kind of done. Okay, so I'm going to do a bit more redirection, but I'm thinking I put it in the bottom of the stomach, pit of the gut. So I'm punching the mic once again, itching my ear. Yeah, so I've got these 3 edges. Obviously, I've got this edge here, right there, and I've got 2 edges either side. So that is going to be going into this edge. All good. But obviously, if I just keep traveling that down, that goes into the leg. And if I just add 2 edges in willy-nilly, I'm going to start create clustering. It's going to be difficult for me to sort out later on, so I'm just going to do a quick save as well. Realise I've not saved it. So what I'm going to do instead is bring those edges down and wrap it underneath the gut, which in some characters, some subjects, this will be quite good because this helps us actually define a bit of a gut shape, especially if you're doing someone who's either really, really in shape and they've got that 6-pack gut, or someone who's big but they've got obviously a gut. Okay. So it's going to be here. So I'm going to redirect it here. I've got to decide what I'm going to do. I could shift the whole thing over so that this edge now runs into this edge. There's not really obviously a halfway point there for me to kind of think about. So I could just say, right, this edge is now running into this one instead of this one. So if I do that, and then I can add 2 edges in like that. I'm able to just fill that area in. Whoops, a daisy. There you go. Just do a bit of cleanup there for a bit. Cool. This one definitely will still be coming down to there. But now the redirection is coming in for this one. So this one to there. This one's going to go into like that. Boop, boop, boop. And then this one doing the same. So I'm going to come around like that. There we go. That gives me a bit of a gut, which is good. Okay, so you can see what we're recording now. We're recording just over half an hour, and tons of stuff has been done. You know, we're almost actually done doing the bulk of the work. So now I'm going to start doing the arm or the connection here. Now, this can be a bit tricky. If you just do literally a loop around the arm and then a loop around the body and connect them like that, that's a lot easier. And I might do that. I might just kind of force it back to being like that. But creating this kind of shape with the pectoral or a breast kind of shape like this, going over the deltoid. This is a bit of a problem area. It's how do we create this really nice loop around the arm? So what I'm going to do is, again, just kind of like puzzle it out. So where's my bottom of my wrist? Is there. So bottom of my arm there. Is that the bottom of my arm? Middle of my arm? There you go, yeah. So I'm going to bring that up. Not all the way into the armpit, because here is where I'm going to put a loop. So, boom, it's going to go round like this. So let me just start to create that loop. So it's a middle point. Then I've put a middle point in there. Middle point in there. I'm just going to make sure the loop does this instead. So I want to give myself that little bit of a gap there. Like there, because it'll help me get a better loop in there later on. Rather than... Because if I just join it up like this, I'm probably going to end up with a triangle. Or have to create some sort of a weird loop. Which I don't want to do. Okay, that's halfway, 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 halfway. So some of these you can see where they're going to line up. Boom, boom. Dead easy. Round the back. Same thing. Boom, boom. This one I'm going to bring up. This one I'm going to bring up. Okay, so here's where, again, keeping it nice and low is good. I've given myself a little bit too much information. So I've got two edges coming in to there. Easy fix, because I'll also have this exact same thing here where I've got two edges going to there. So I'm going to add two edges to the arm. That'll give me a little bit more resolution around the elbow, the wrist, the shoulder. It'll stop it from kind of doing this really low res kind of thing here. All I've got to do is make sure that I'm being aware of where my middle points are. So yeah, so I've got this edge and this edge. So I'm going to add two there. Join them up. Again, I can always smooth it later on. So I don't creating clusters, just like with end guns, creating clusters isn't bad. You just got to fix them. There we go. And then I'm going to start to position these, space them out a little bit. Let me just... There we go, so I can... So I'm smoothing the very end of it, because obviously we've got relax auto lock on. So if I'm on the end of the geometry there, it's only going to smooth the end. So I'm smoothing it like that, using soft select as well. Okay, it's not really doing what I want it to do, but that's fine. So I've got to make sure that my middle point doesn't move. Pardon me. On both sides, I can just start to move stuff into place. Just try and get a nice equidistance between all these different edges. Okay, looks all right. Nice big smooth brush. Smooth. Look at that. Again, I can always go back and move vertexes around if they're not going where I want them to go. Okay. So it's looking alright for now. Okay, so that's my halfway point of body there. So here I'm going to add another edge on the outside. Again, that's my halfway point, so I'm going to add another edge here, and then on the inside here, I'm going to do the exact same thing. Again, to keep it nice and equal. Why I'm doing that is because coming in from my armpit here, I'm going to have too many edges from my arm going into too few edges on my body. So I'm going to add that, so I can actually start to get those in there. And then I'm going to... There we go. Easy. And then hit it with a bit of smooth. Bit of smoothing. Nice. So when you're smoothing, as long as you're keeping your eye on stuff, and the fact that we've gone through and done like very, very low res at first, like 8 to 12 edges going around a wrist and an arm and stuff, and then we're gradually adding stuff in. When we start smoothing off, it should start to just like relax and regulate itself a lot more. And just look for any points. Oh! So that's another point from when I did the whole mirror thing that didn't quite take on, so I needed to add that in there. Let me just... I feel like things aren't merging. I'll turn off live object for now, so nothing's magnetic. I'm just going to merge everything. Make doubly sure. Okay. That's just not... Yeah, that area there just doesn't want to... There we go, now it's doing. It's better. Okay. Not a mad fan of that, keep doing that, but that's okay. And I was filling in this bit. So I'm going to bring this edge here round to the back. So let's set up that loop. Oh, that's what I intend to do anyway. Let's just make a bit of a sketch in there first to see what that feels like. No, I'm not going to do that. Instead, what I'm going to do is have, instead of that, having that loop stretch and be pulled into that point there to go all the way around, I'm actually going to direct this one up into the chest there. I think this one just needs an edge back there. So this one, so it kind of goes around like it goes around from the back, up into the torso, up into the pectorals. And where's this going? I've got to look at where things are redirected. So this one's going up into the pectoral. So let me just get that going. Into pectoral, into the deltoid. So it looks like I'm going to need another edge in there, but I'm going to leave that for now because I don't really know what's happened at the back yet. Okay. Put another edge in there just to start to get the armpit. And now you can see where I keep going on about, you know, make sure your people got their arms up enough because we're going to have to get into the armpits in places. And I'm going to try and not add any more edges into the arms or the legs or anything now. So this is a point where I've got to start thinking about redirecting, or maybe even deleting some edges and rebuilding. Okay, so I feel like I could probably add another edge in that pectoral area there, so that's what I did. Because that also helps me follow this edge round up, so I can fill that in. Connect that bit up. I've got a bit of a triangle there, so I can just add an edge in to fill that triangle. But now I'm thinking against it. What if I just bring these two together? Does that form something nice? Yeah, there we go. That's okay. Big sign to the mic then. Okay. Yep. So now we've just got this really awkward little bit here. But what if I... Yeah, okay. So it's pretty much the exact same thing I did back there. So instead of having a triangle up here that I then cut against it to make a 4, there we go. I'm looking at it, I'm going, well, this is a 6-sided shape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I take 2 of those edges out, it turns into a 4-sided shape. Which ones do I take out? Do I meld these two together? Obviously not. These two are fairly close to each other anyway, so I can weld these two together. That gives me a quad. Job done. Just hit it with a bit of smooth. There we go. Oh, a bit dodgy in the armpit. Not a mad fan of that. So I'm not liking how that armpit's doing there, so I'm going to do something a little bit weird. I'm going to make an intentional kind of like bad loop. So that's where the middle of it's going to be. So I'm going to make a couple of triangles in the armpit there. There we go. And try not to over smooth. I could add another edge across there, so I can just fix that one up. So at least I'm getting rid of the triangle at the front. Smooth it out a little bit. And then around the back. Look where that edge is going. That edge is going into a weird position, into a weird place, so I'm not going to do that. Going to leave that one back there. I'm going to move a bit dirty and leave it there. Cool. So I'm just going to do the feet now. It's the middle of the leg. Yep, that's the middle of the leg going down there. So now it's time to do the feet. So before we move on to do the feet and the hands and that kind of stuff, there is a point where we can actually stop and go, right, what could I do? Because I could absolutely keep like this. I will have to add a few more points in, like edges in around, again, points that bend, like the knee, the elbow, the wrist, just so that stuff would deform properly. But I can look around and go, what could I do better? What could I do better? And all I'm going to do is something similar to what I've done with the stomach here. Definitely on the leg. And I'm going to leave it on the arm, but definitely on the leg. I'm going to make a knee. So I'm going to find the middle of the leg, which is there. And I'm basically going to take away 2 edges coming down so that it's not quite as dense around here. So dense. And I'm going to, that's the knee area. So I'm going to do all this section here. And then start to create that redirect. So I'm definitely going to take them out. Like that. Now I've got a knee. Let me just once again reorganize, redistribute these. Pardon me, got the burps. So again, as long as I don't lose that middle, I'm all good. Go. The middle of my leg at the back. Yep. Cool. So you could technically do something like this for the elbow as well. I'm going to leave it like that though. Right, so I'm going to find the front leg again. There you go. I'm going to bring these down around the back of the ankle, right there. That's still the mid. Have I got that right? Is that the middle? Yeah. I feel like I need to give him a bit more of a bum there. Anyway. So then we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool. So I'm going to take this middle one here. Because basically we're going to have part of this ankle section going to be going wrapping around underneath the heel, the plantar, and back up. And then some of it is going to be coming forward into the foot. Like that. There we go. Wrapping this round. Like that. Like that. Go. Like that. Like that. So I'm starting to lay in like almost like a sock. I cover a bandage around the foot. So what I'm going to do is, again, making sure I've keep everything nice and equal. I'm going to wrap around the front. I'm going to make a loop around the front of the foot that wraps around into itself, basically the opposite side. So to get a better shape, instead of just trying to bring everything to a point, which isn't going to give you a good shape, I'm going to try and loop around the shape of stuff, trace the shape. So I'm going to... I think I'm going to do with this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, good, yeah. Ooh, there we go. Go. Again, keep it nice and low res, so that if I need to add edges in like that, bang, it's easy. There we go. There we go. And then we do a similar thing with the heel. So in fact what I'm going to do is actually make that loop exist already. So make that loop. Boop, boop, boop. So I feel like I'm just dead quiet when I'm doing this. Just concentrating, that's all. See down that now that I've got like basically a foot. Perfectly good foot. Pretty smooth. So when I'm smoothing as well, I've really got to be careful of this kind of area, because if I do it too much, I destroy the shape. And obviously I don't want to have that. I want to maintain that shape as much as I can. It's still on the lower res side, but I can add edges in whenever I want. So I could add an edge going on there because it's a loop. And I could add an edge going around like this. Because it's a loop. And because I'm going from the left hand side to the inside to the outside, matching what I'm doing, all my edges are going to match up perfectly. Like that. And then I can put an edge at the bottom there to do that. Then that. And then that. Carefully do some smoothing. Carefully. There we go. And then I can add maybe one. Oops, daisy. 1, 2, 3, and just again touch it up a little bit. Oop, lose my big toe there. So I'm going to shrink down my smooth and just pull some of it around. There you go. So we've got a foot. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. Let's add another on. Oops, daisy. So as you retopple more and more and more and more and more, you might feel, you might sense that Maya starts to get a little bit chuggy, starts to lag a little bit. That's because, again, if we remind ourselves how Maya works with history and data to kind of make stuff work. And because we've been doing all this, essentially what we've been doing is racking up masses of history. So, what I'm going to do, because I can feel it chugging a little bit, is I'm just going to go to edit, delete all by type history. All that history gets deleted. Any kind of like rogue things here gets deleted. And now it should feel a lot easier. There we go. Done. Add a couple of edges in there to the leg just to give myself a bit more shape. I also want to try and get things square as possible. So at some points are getting a little bit more rectangular, like here is a bit of a rectangle. But around important areas I want to try and get it as square as possible. And then I'm also just, oops a daisy. I'm going to add a few more divisions around the knee there, again for that animation kind of deform point a little bit, plus just give myself a bit more kind of shape. There we go. Probably add a couple in the leg as well for the same reason, just to give myself get a bit of shape in there. Yee. Maybe one more. Oops, a daisy. There you go. Just careful with the smoothing around this area as well, because you can kind of destroy the shape a little bit. There we go. Cool. I'm happy with that. That's the lower part of the body done. Upper part of the body done. Could I put any new edges somewhere else? Could I put any new edges around here? Probably put one there. And just... So when I'm smoothing as well, as per usual, like I always say, I'm making sure that I'm not destroying anything. You know, especially around the pectorals, if you're really using that to define very kind of defined pectorals, like Anthony for instance, if you over smooth, you'll lose that. And then you'll end up having like faces bridging across balconies. But my subject here is fairly... It's got some pecs, but they're not particularly like defined. Cool. Now it's the hand. So left it to last. The hand is the same kind of process. We're going to start off with loops. The loops are going to be the base of each one of the fingers, each one of the digits. They're going to be eight edges going around each one of them, and we're not going to add any more edges in later on. And if I think about the hand as a cube, the finger is a cube. On the top plane, we're going to have 2 edges. On the bottom plane, we're going to have 2 edges, 2 flows. And on the side planes, we're going to have 2 flows. I'm going to try and keep those on top so we don't get like twisty fingers. And then when I've done that, I've got to start to connect everything. So I've got to connect in between to create the webbing in between the fingers. I'll then have to kind of create some look. You'll see what I'll do. Because with all those edges of, all those 8s, that's going to create a load of edges going into the wrist. And I don't want to start sending any more edges into the body. The body's done now. So I want to leave that. So I'm going to redirect edges round. I'm going to try and be as economical as possible. I have in the past, and often do, create triangles in the crease of the palm there. Helps with creasing. Like visual creasing anyway, not necessarily animation creasing. Animation creasing. So, let's do it. So I'm going to start off with one of the fingers, start off with the middle finger. And like I said, I'm going to start off with 8 edges going around the base of the finger. So I'm going to have... There we go. That's top of the finger. That's the middle of the top of the finger. Center my camera in a better position. Back of the finger, so middle. There we go. See if I can get it. I'm trying to make life easy on myself and try and fill it in, but obviously fingers are really awkward. Right. Boom, boom. Just create the thing and then move it into place. So I'm going to just move this to the halfway point. There we go. And then boom, boom. So I'm going to do again is pause the video, do all the loops, and then come back. Because it's going to take me ages to do this. Not ages, but it's going to take me a bit. It's going to be a boring video. And we're done. Took about 5 minutes. So you can see that we've got the rings going around the finger there. And we're going to make the fingers first. And then the rest of the palm. Well, with these loops in, you can also make the palm first. But I've got 8 edges going around each one of my digits. And I'm not going to add any more going down the length of it at all. I'm not going to do anything like that. I'm going to make the webbing. I'm going to make the tip of the finger, and it's in certain ways. So I'm going to do the tip of the finger as well, first of all, because that's quite a fun thing to show you how to do. I did do this. I did do this for the face, for basically like inside the nose. I'm going to make a block of 9 dots to create 4 quads. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So a little group of 9, and then I can just boop, and I got my fingertip. I've got 2 edges there for my top plane, 2 edges there for my bottom plane, 2 edges there on either side for my side planes. And when it comes to smoothing around the fingers, I'm going to be really, really careful. And just get used to the camera as well, because we're going to be looking at all kind of weird angles at the hand, so the camera might feel a bit awkward sometimes, so just deal with it. Nothing you can do. Tip the finger. And I'm also just being aware of the angle of it, so that I'm not making these dots in kind of like that shape, for instance, where my planes don't actually match up. I don't want that. So these are my bottom planes, this is my top plane, these are my side planes. There you go. Tip of the finger. And my thumb. Now your thumb is, remember, is a bit of an angle, so I've had to find it at the top. So that's my middle of my thumb at the top. So when I'm making that little group of 9, I have got to keep that in mind. So that's my middle there. Boom, boom, boom. And now it's just about connecting them up. Cool, so drag into the knuckles. Knuckle tip. Knuckle. Tip. Come on. There you go. And same for the bottom. Knuckle, tip. Now I'm going to try and get these into as good a position as I can for my knuckle bends. But I can always adjust stuff later on. Again, keeping it nice and low and then adding detail later on. Okay, so when in doubt, if it's not going to connect, do it yourself. There you go. Whoosh, just add it then. There. Boom. Go. Boom, there you go. Cool. So let's make the finger a bit more better, because we've got the knuckle positions now. Let's try and match them up to the actual model, because I don't want any. I don't need any like curvy lines. Well, we do want curvy lines, obviously. We want the flow, but I need to make sure that the loops, these divisions, are actually wrapping around the points where the finger would bend. So if adding those in those are good, I'm going to add one in the middle of each one of them. And then I'm going to add in the middle of each one of them. Maybe not. Okay, so yeah, there we go. Touching with a tiny bit of smoothing. I want to stay away from those knuckles. And I'm adding a bit more geometry at the tip of the finger, because I want to make sure I'm getting the tip of the finger, you know, especially with a little curve at the very tip of the finger there. I'll make sure that I'm matching that up. That's it. I'm not going to bother doing any kind of like nail definition, because I'm not doing anyone who's got like big nails or anything like that. But then you go through and you basically do that for each one of the fingers. So boom. You know, if you do that and you're all good. That's the fingers process. You do that for each one of them, including the thumb. The only difference is the thumb is you've only got one visible knuckle. The other knuckle is like there, so it's inside. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to bypass that. You know, we've done all the fingers, so I'm not going to be using that for ages. I'm going to start connecting the palm up. This might take a little bit of time, but I'm going to start making the palm. First of all, what I'm going to do is connect the fingers, and I've made sure when I was laying in the first initial loops on the base of the fingers that all my halfway points are matching up on the inside of the fingers, because I should just be able to now to do that. Like that. And like that. Okay, so we've got those there now as joined. And I'm just going to add a point in the middle to obviously attach to the web. Now obviously, because it's magnetized into the surface, it's not really ever going to magnetize the way you want it to at first, so just move them into place. I notice how I'm bringing them down a little bit on the inside and the outside, and bringing them down a little bit. This will come into play later on to help us tons. Come on here. drag those UVs into place. UVs, what? Vertexes. Boom, like that. Now for the, there we go. Now for the connecting the thumb, so I'm going to find the halfway point of obviously the finger, which is there, and the halfway point of the thumb, which is there. Connect them up. Put a point. I'm going to put 3 points in this one because obviously it's a much broader, much bigger area. I'm going to put 3 points in this. 3 edges, there we go. Maybe one more there. There we go. No, leave it like that for now. Okay. Okay, so now we've created the connections between each one of the fingers. Now I'm going to start to actually take away some edges. I'm actually going to start to, you know, not send as many down because I've added an edge in the middle of each one of the weapons. That's adding 3 new edges on both front and back. So that's 6 new edges. 12 if you think about both hands. Obviously that's a bit of an issue. But the reason why I dragged down the middle of the fingers there is so I can actually start to create loops. Right there. So you can see that loop there. You know, I've got this one over here coming across to here. So if I put a point, I can go pop, pop. Same as this one, pop, pop. Pop, pop. Pop, pop. There we go. Then bring round, complete that loop, because that loop's obviously coming around there. Let's just complete that. And then do the same for this one. Try not to move anything to do with the actual fingers as well, because I don't want to lose that halfway point. Oop. Here we go. So you can see there that we're starting to connect the fingers up. Create that area, the knuckle area of the hand. Now here's a really fun thing we can do to actually start taking away some, I think it's fun anyway, start taking away some edges, is I'm going to come from the outside of my pointer finger, I'm going to make a loop, and I'm going to come into the outside of my little finger, making a horn. So for instance, so I've got the 2 planes at the top of the finger. So it's important to know where these are. So that's my 2 planes at the top of the finger there. I'm going to grab the outside one. I'm going to get my little finger, that's my outside one. And then just create that loop. Like that. And then I could even then continue that on. For the next one, like that. So now I've taken away 1, 2, 3, 4. So 8 if you think about both hands. I've also created my halfway point. So my halfway point is going to go into the halfway point of my hand, of my arm. Let's remind ourselves it's that one. Is that it? Yeah, so it's going to go into here. So again, remind myself, yep. There's nothing different to anything I've done. I'm just doing the exact same thing. The only new thing here is, you know, how I'm tackling some of this information on the inside. So I've made those loops coming around there. Those 2 loops coming around the hand, the palm of the hand. I've got 4 edges in my hand here. And then because I added those 2 edges in the side and the one in the middle, that gives me 4 edges here. Hey. So now I can fill them up. Boop, boop, boop. There you go. So now that's starting to get filled up. Obviously, we're going to add a few more edges in there to fill up that area in a bit. Around the bottom of the, around this part of the hand here, it's a little bit different. What I'm going to do is make a loop that basically goes around the palm, part of the palm there, round to the back of the palm there, using this edge. So and again, I'm going to, if I make an edge at the front, I'm going to make an edge at the back. And then, boom. Just like that. So you might be able to see where some of these edges are once again starting to match up and line up. Like that. Okay, so am I getting any that line up? Yeah, I'm getting some lining up here, so I could probably line those up. Kind of information is there. Like that. Okay. Okay. I'm going to add a point there because I'm going to come across and basically start to fill in the back of the like the knuckle of the thumb by coming across. But this is where I've really got to make sure of my edges. I've got to kind of pay attention to what I'm doing. I'm going to come across like that. That. Okay, so I guess I have to fill that in nicely. I'm going to try and send this in here like that, see what that gives me. Go. So yeah, that loop nicely goes around like that. Now this is an area that I foresee myself changing later on, where I got my wrist is here, because I want to add more information going around my wrist, but it's kind of going, it's not going in the direction that I want. So I'm going to pre kind of think about that. Maybe do that instead. But then I got a triangle there. Okay. So again, I'm going to repeat the same things that I have all the time. When I'm adding this kind of stuff in there, I'm looking to see where it's coming from and where it's going to, so that I can have the correct or a nice amount, a nice density. Because I don't want, like, the back of my palm looks fine so far. Although I've got to remember I'm adding edges in for like my knuckles area, like there, for instance. Proper line there. I've got to make sure that I'm not going to be spiraling, because the spiral always happens in the hand, I find. So when I'm adding stuff in, I'm just being aware of where it goes, where it's going to end up. So in fact, I'm just going to make this a loop. I'm going to force this loop straight away, like that. So now that loop goes all the way around. Okay, I'm forcing that loop. Like that. So I know that those smooth out a little bit. 1, 2, 3. So let's add 1, 2, 3. Oh, so we've got 2 edges here, 1 edge here. Where is that? If I add that in, where is that going? It's adding more. So that's where a spiral is starting to appear. But I will carry on. I'll keep going. Okay. So we've got a bit of a thing going on. We've got a triangle in the palm there that I'm going to endeavour to get rid of eventually. A few more edges in there just to give myself a bit more shape to the hand. Add another one there just to give, again, a bit more shape to the hand. Okay, so yeah, I'll fix up that triangle in a bit. Okay. So, before I start to work on this little area here, because this is actually getting quite dense, I'm going to start to connect my hand to my wrist, because I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to fill in a lot of space. And what I want to do is what I don't want to do is concentrate on this part of the hand, and then completely ignore what it's going to be attached to. So, at this stage, I'm going to start to connect shit up. Remembering that I kind of want to control. So I'm forcing that loop again because I know I want to put a bit more information in my wrist there. It's a little bit too low res. Okay, so I did the same thing I did in the shoulder there. Oh, but that's smoothing weirdly, so I've just got to be aware of that, how that's smoothing. Because as I'm smoothing there, can you see how it's kind of collapsing in? It's not great. So, it's not bad. I'm going to leave that shape as it is. I'm just not going to add any more smoothing into there. I also need to just massage some of the verts around to, you know, space them out a little bit better. Okay. So again, Maya's a little bit laggy at the minute because of all the stuff. So I can tell that because as I was trying to delete edges there, it was deleting the face because it was lagging and all that kind of jazz. There we go. Fill in that. Okay. So what I've got here is I might need to do the same thing I did at the back of the palm, back of the hand, with that loop thing on this part of the palm here, because I'm getting basically double the amount of edges. I've got 3 edges there, I've got 6 edges there. I'm getting double. So I need to get rid of a few, so I might but I'll only do it on the middle finger and the little finger, to the little finger. I won't do it from the main pointer finger, because the pointer finger there is perfectly fine, it's joined in. So here, I'm gonna go. How does that? Okay, so it's doing something there. I'll come back to that one. Okay. So let's do another one. And that should now allow me to connect up stuff. There we go. There we go. Okay, so yep, I've gone silent again. All I'm doing here is just trying to solve this issue. And I might just need a cheeky triangle somewhere. It's like, I might just leave a triangle there, to be honest. There we go. So, boom, that's the hand done. Technically, that's the whole thing done. All I'm going to do now is just basically go through and, just like I did with the leg, just add a few edges in to try and get that square back. I've got a lot of rectangles in my arm, so I want to get the squares back. So what I'm going to do is just pause the video, complete the rest of the hand, like just fill in the fingers, and then we're going to UV this, and you'll see that UVing this is so simple, so simple. And we're going to do the whole thing because obviously you've got the head and the body. So I'm going to show you how to set that up. And there we go. That is a fully done body. So if I had the decimated version, there we go. All ready for the next bit. So, what's that? It's an hour and a half video, and some of that was me just kind of being very, very quiet and just working away. As you can see, the process is quite simple. If you just set up those loops ahead of time, especially around the wrist and stuff, keep it nice and low. I think I had like 8 loops going around like the elbow, the wrist, the top of the leg, knee, ankle. You're basically just connecting those up, first of all. Basically give them like sleeves and then like leggings. And then the body as well, I kept that really, really low res. Once you keep it like nice and low res, when you add something, it's actually making a big effect, a big a big impact, and you're not just guessworking how many edges are going to go around, and also just making sure that once you put those edges in, even if you can like add one or two, don't add tons. And once you've called like your leg or your arm done, don't add in more edges going down it. Control your edges. Yeah. So that's done. There's a couple of cheeky triangles in there, like I said. It's not the best. Well, no, it's very, very good retopology, I would say, but it's not super complex. It's not a super kind of like advanced retopology of the body or anything like that. It's quite a simple approach. Keep them nice and simple. There's no point throwing like really weird techniques at you. Right, so UV in this. Let's just go and UV this. It's really, really easy. So first of all, what I'm going to do is make sure that all the history is deleted. Nice and good. And then I'm just going to change my workspace to UV. Make sure I do a save. Just kill that. There you go. So that's our UVs for this. Obviously, complete mess. Planar projected. Let's take a picture. Let's take a photograph in front of this. So I'm just going to go to create planar. Make sure it's down the Z-axis, and make sure it's keep image width height ratio is turned on. Boom. And then we're just laying it out. Nice and simple. Oh, turn that off. There you go. So now I just need to cut it up. So I'm going to have two UVs probably for this. I'm going to have a head UV and a body UV. I'm not going to try and condense everything into one UV, just because if you try and do that, everything has to be really small on the UV sheet, and it means that the texture itself is going to be kind of weak and kind of pixelated and kind of rubbish and blurry. So I'm going to have a body one and I'm going to have a head one. The head one will be a bigger. So no, the body will be a bigger texture size. So for instance, if I was doing a head texture at 1K, my body's probably going to be about 2K, because all my UVs from my body are probably going to be about half the size of my head UV. So if they're half the size, you need to be double the UVs to kind of keep the pixel fidelity similar. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to cut the head off. I'm going to find a nice point round the neck to cut it off. So where do I want my head to begin? I'm going to go there. Boom. Cut it off. Move it up. Awesome. So we're just going to... I'm not going to bother doing the head in this one, because we've already done a video for the head. So I'm just going to do the body. So where do I cut stuff off? Well, I'm going to cut the arms off. I'm going to cut the legs off. I'm going to put the feet off. I'm going to cut the hands off. And then there's how we unwrap these. There's a couple of different ways. So find a nice point in the legs to cut them off. I'm going to go right there. Sorry, there you go. Let's see where that wraps around. That gives me a good cut. Yep. Cut. Move those down. Do a save. Come up to my arm. Again, think about a good place to cut my arms off. I'm going to go here. There we go. Yep, we do that. Do a save. Now the reason I'm saving quite often is there's always been a bit of a bug with this process. When you're moving stuff in UV shell mode or in face mode, for some reason when you move it, every now and then, it's rare but it can happen, is it just crashes. So every time I move something, I'm saving often. And because it's in the UV phase, I'm not doing an incremental save. I'm just control S-ing. I don't need to do an incremental save when we're doing UVing. Let's cut off the feet. Gonna cut them off there. Goes all the way around. Boop. And then my hand, I'm gonna basically get the wrist there. Cut those off. So I'm holding, while hovering over the UV space, I'm just hitting Shift X to cut something. Cool. So now we've got our different components. Arms and legs are the easiest things to do, because literally, how would you flay the skin of your enemy if you want to display it nicely? You're not going to put tons of cuts in it. You're going to put one cut in it, somewhere that's hidden, and unfold. I'm just going to go from the armpit down to the hand. So find my middle point of my armpit. There. And just basically follow that edge all the way down. And then just Control U. Done. They're done. That's the arms done. Same things for the legs. I'm going to go from the inside of the legs. Find the middle point. Follow the edge down. Unfold. Done. Very, very quick, very, very easy. So I'm just going to shift those off to the side for the time being. Obviously, the rotation and stuff isn't ready, but the actual UVing has been done. The unfolding has been done. Now for the body, there's a couple of different ways we could do this. And really, I guess it depends on how much information you want to maintain or whatever. Now, if we're doing clothing, this will be different because we can follow the natural seams, basically the man-made seams in clothing. So if you're doing a t-shirt, you've got seams going down the side. Literally cut them off there. So you've got a front plane and a back plane of the t-shirt. The body, though, I have two ways I do the body. One, I basically cut the front from the back and have two different sheets. Or I cut down the spine and across the shoulders and unfold there, so that I've got no, especially if I'm probably doing so, like my big alien dude, for instance, he is cut down the spine, so I'm not putting any seams down probably where you're going to see him, because he's going to be exposed on his obliques. So what are these two? I keep saying stuff. What are these two ways of doing it? Well, I just find the halfway point again. So find the halfway point, follow that down, cut, and then do that top on the shoulder, do the shoulders on top, cut, oh, and underneath as well in the groin. So find the halfway point in the groin, cut, there we go. So now I should have a front and a back. This one's the front, this one's the back. So I'm just going to flip the back one so it's facing forward, unfold, unfold, done. Simple. You know, that's a perfectly good UV. Like I said, depending on what you're doing, you know, you might have, if you're doing like some character who's exposed torso here or whatever, or maybe you're doing something which is like you got panel lining around here. You know, if you have a seam going down the side here, there might be a risk of kind of like you're seeing the seam, pixels might not line up properly, you get like the weird artifacting. But that, like I said, perfectly good. Nothing wrong with doing that. The other way, if we bring them both together, so they're not on, is literally come around the back, from the back here all the way down to the middle. Cut that, and then cut that. And then I'm just going to cut the shoulders like that, and then unfold. That's another way of doing it. That way there's no seams down the side. The only seam that might appear isn't going to be in the spine. And generally, unless you've got some intricate tattoo detail there or whatever, the spine's quite a bland area for detail. So if there is going to be any texture seams, they're going to be the place where they're not necessarily going to be seen too much. Done. I think for this one, just for space wise, I'm going to cut them down the side. Personally, I'm going to do that. So cut, 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 flip, unfold, unfold, and I'll move them to the side. Save. Let's do my feet. So what I'm going to do here is basically cut the sole off from the front, from the foot, and then cut down the heel to be able to fold it out. Nice and easy. Another reason why having that loop in there is very nice and useful, because I can actually follow that loop. So like that one, for instance, right there, it's pretty much the sole of the foot. So I'm going to cut that, and then I'm going to find the back of the heel, cut that, and then unfold, boom, done. So you can see I've got a heel there, and then I got the foot there. Dead simple. Move it aside. And last but not least is the hands. Now hands, a couple of different ways we can do this again, depending entirely how you want to do it. One, you're going to have more UV shells, but you're going to have less distortion. One, you're going to have less UV shells, but you're going to have more distortion. It's up to you what you want to do. So one thing we can do is, first of all, cut all the fingers off. So I'm going to find the base of each one of the fingers, go all the way around. May turn that off at time being. Like that. There you go. So I'm cutting basically the base of the finger off and each one of the fingers away from themselves. Cut. Oh, the thumb as well. So I've got to find the bottom of the thumb. So it's back there. Cut. Yeah, so there you go. So I've cut the thumbs off. Almost made like gloves. In fact, I'm just going to go back quickly because I've still got symmetry turned on, and I've got two hands, so I can show one process on one, another process on the other. There we go. Right, there you go. So yeah, cut the inside of the fingers off, cut all the way around, cut the thumb off. So you're making basically a fingerless glove. Whatever. There you go. So yeah, basically got a fingerless glove now. And then all I'm going to do is basically cut down the most hidden part of the hand, which is going to be like inside there. So I'm going to cut the webbing between the thumb and the pointer finger, which is going to be there. Or maybe... maybe there instead. Boom. And then I can unfold that. Oops. Oh, okay, so I need to do that part of the hand as well. Boom, there we go. There we go. That's what I wanted. So yeah, I need to cut the inside of the thumb there and also back of the thumb there, and it lays out like that. Perfectly cool. There you go. And then each one of the fingers, what I'm going to do is cut down the inside of the finger, and then also the tip of the... I'm going to make a bit of a special cut at the tip of the finger so that it all lays out nicely. And it's also why I made this square at the tip of the finger, because I'm going to use that for my UVing. So cut down there, and then I'm also going to basically cut round this here, but leave them top two connected. So it's so quick that I'm going to do it on each one of them, all at the same time. Boom. And my thumb. Boom. There you go. So I've basically made the same cuts on each one of them, gone down the inside of, well, the back of the thumb or back of the finger like that, and I've made a little cut at the top so that when it unfolds, this section of square here will lay flat. Like that. There you go. So now I've got each one of my fingers done. And that's one way of making it, of doing the hand. There you go. So like I said, there's less distortion there because we're able to split everything up. So there's less things impacting on each other and causing, you know, any kind of warping, deformation, any kind of like that. But you've got more UV shells, so there's more chance of seams appearing in like the tips, the bottom of the fingers, and also the inside of the thumb there. That's one way of doing it. The other way, just as simple, what I'm going to do is grab the hand, and I'm going to find going to find the halfway point, going all the way around there. Again, it's also why I took great care making sure that, say, the inside of the thumbs or the halfway points matched up, so I can grab all of that. I'm going to cut that, and then I'm going to follow this one. And I'm going to make a bit of a dodgy turn. I'm going to turn here. Because for some reason I didn't... even though I thought I was doing, I haven't actually lined up these two as I thought I did. So I might have done it first, but then accidentally, as I was like changing the topology, I might have accidentally not connected it. There you go. So basically what I've done here now is split both sides of the hand apart from each other, and then I UV, unfold like that, and then I'm going to sew the inside of the palm, so where the little finger is here, I'm going to sew those back together, and then just sew like that. There you go, and that's another way of doing hands. That way you've got more distortion in here. There's more. So if we put the heat map on there, there's a little bit more kind of blues and reds because we're either compressing or stretching areas. But it's one UV, so less to keep hold of. I did this for my alien dude because he's got a big meaty hand, so I wanted as little risk of texture seams as possible. But those are two ways of doing hands, both perfectly fine. And you saw the two ways we could do the body as well, both perfectly fine. I said I wasn't going to do it, but while I'm here, I might as well just do the head as well. Dead simple. I'm just going to cut from the back of the head to the hairline. Maybe that's a bit too far. Like that. And then unfold. Done. Oh, need to cut the mouth bag. So, cut the mouth bag off. There we go. There we go. Make sure nothing's overlapping. Good. There you go. Inside of the mouth. Okay, so that's the whole body done. Now it's just a case of arranging it. So there we go. So that's just arrange stuff. So I'm gonna arrange these two things in there, and I'm gonna make sure things are straight as well. So I'm gonna modify straight and shell. Or if I select down the middle here and go to modify straight and shell, there we go. Because it's using that center line as a straightening tool. There we go. Now what I'm going to be doing here as well is working from the top left. I'm going to try and fill this as equally as I can. So for instance, what I mean by that is, from here I've got 1 square, 2 square, 3 square, 4 square, 5 square, 6 square, 7 square. So I'm entering into the 7th square. So then I'm going to go, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to try and keep everything within this square here. In the current size that they are anyway. I can scale the UVs up and down later on. I'm going to try and keep everything inside there. I'm basically going to try and keep everything in a square, so if we need to scale up, everything's just scaling into a square. Which I already know from my legs isn't going to actually be able to be done, because my legs are long. So let's just straighten shell, and just trying to arrange them, and I'm going to actually rotate these like this so I can basically jigsaw them in together. That. So you can tell I've gone past that 7 squares. I've lost that square now, but it's fine. Don't worry about it. My arms. Straighten shell. Straighten shell. Rotate that around. Now I'm also keeping these quite simple. I'm not. Really, what I could be doing is making everything into an actual rectangle. So, for instance, I could. I've got straight in UVs, doing something like this, where I've got all the UVs perfectly straight. Now this is good if we're doing stuff for because we're doing stuff in Substance Painter. Any distortion is kind of going to be fixed up when we are texturing directly onto the surface, and it'll adjust it to go onto the texture. If we were painting this in stuff like Photoshop or Procreate or anything like that on an actual like 2D old-fashioned UV, that'll be an issue because we're going to paint something normal on here on the actual flat surface, and then when we actually apply it to the model, then it'll stretch. So you could do this. Now this is just all about space saving. There's not really it's nice optimized UVs, so there's not really much in the way of like technical reasoning. No, there is a lot of technical reasoning. It's just not very well documented. It's quite hard to find the information about this. I think it's like some studios are quite guarded about what they give out and why they do certain things. Don't know why. We could do something like that, and all I've done to do that is just go to modify. And in this it'll be nice and easy because it's not like a wobbly surface like this. So I should just be able to modify straight in UVs, and it should just jump into a square like that. Perfectly good. You could even do it for the leg, but it's a bit different because we've got this little loop on the inside of the knee there, so that might be a bit tricky. So what I could do is try and do it on the outside. Not really. Like I said, I'm just going to leave it as they are. I'm not going to throw loads of complicated stuff at people about this. And then just throw these in. Oops. So you can see we've got a little bit of wasted space. We've got excess space, and I don't want to put my head in here. I want to keep my head separate. So we can start to scale stuff up. Yeah, we start to scale stuff up. Try and fill the space as much as we can. Another thing we can do, and I cannot stress this enough, this is not bypassing us doing the work. We shouldn't be doing this and being lazy and just being like, oh, I'll just do this and we'll whatever. There is an automatic layout function inside of Maya. It's not always great though, because it doesn't really understand how to place stuff in like optimized positions. If you go select everything to modify layout and then option box for this, there's a couple of settings I want to change. So all that is fine. At the bottom though, we've got shell padding and tile padding. So shell padding is the pixel distance between each UV shell, and tile padding is the pixel distance between from the side of the tile, from the side of the UV sheet. So I'm going to put in 5 in both of these and hit apply. So you can see it lays it out and does somewhat of a job. What I tend to do is use this and then adjust, fix up its mistakes, or do a better job. So it's put the feet down here in like weird. Well, I didn't really change the angles of these, but you know, I could probably put these in better positions. It's broken the hand up into different chunks and kind of centered everywhere. You know, so for my hand that I cut the fingers off, it sent all the fingers in different areas. So, you know, keeping track of them is a bit hard. Yep. So you can see like they kind of split them up so I could bring all my fingers together, and I'd try and do them in order as well. So if we've got like thumb, pointer, middle, ring, little. So that's it. You know, one of the names of the games with this, and it's a bit of a losing battle sometimes, is optimization is key. And that's one of the reasons why studios square off, make everything into a cube or a rectangle, like a perfectly right-angled rectangle, so that they can fit it into the UV sheet a lot better. You know, it's easier to have those kind of jigsawed in. But when you leave stuff like this, obviously all the different angles and shapes are a bit harder to actually get in there and fit in. But you know, that's a bum. For what we need to do, that's perfectly fine. And that's dead easy. So all that work we put into making the body, that beautiful topology, quite happy with that. We now get that, and it's so easy to UV. All I'm going to do now is just grab any of the shells, maybe on the body, that's my main one. I'm going to get that textile density, so it's 1.8 essentially, it's saying there, 1.8. And just make sure that's attached to everything. And then I'm going to do that on my head, so set that. So, right, so that's my head. You can see it's very, very small. So, as I was saying before, if I'm putting my head on one texture sheet and I'm putting the rest of my body on another texture sheet, so splitting them up like this, which is a very, very common thing to do. Obviously, if I have the same like texel size, pixel size to my texture, so I fill my head up, you know, my head's filling up my UV sheet like this, and that is 1024, and my body is also 1024. Think about how big that UV of the head is on that UV sheet. It's that one UV is filling up the whole sheet. It's getting the full 1024, you know, experience. All my limbs and stuff, on my body, they're all essentially half the size. So if they're on a 1024 texture, they're getting half the pixel applied to them essentially. So they'll be a lot more blurry, a lot more low res. So if I do that, if I have a 1K texture for my head, I'm going to have a 2K texture for my body, so that is double the size. Because it's double the texture size because it's half the UV size. Bit of an odd one to get your head around, at least it is for me anyway. So if I got 1.8 there, what's double 1.8? 3.6, something like that.